Constructing Culture, Part 2, American Culture. In this lecture, we will dig deeper into American culture. I have taught this as an entire semester-long class in the past. We will only focus on some of the most famous work in this area. Please be aware that much of it is critiquing American culture. I hope that you can look beyond the negative focus of this work to see some elements of truth, information that will help you understand American life a little bit better. American culture. Culture from one part of the world can impact cultures in other parts of the world. Examples of American culture can be found in restaurants like McDonald's and Starbucks coffee. These places can be in high contrast to local cultures. Why would these countries adopt these cultures into their own? While many believe it is the relative economic status of the country that makes its products more valuable, we only know that elements of American culture are becoming widespread around the world. What is American culture then? Williams' American Values. I suspect that many of you would say that you believe that you are an individual and don't follow the norms and beliefs of the larger culture. To be honest, if that is true, then you can count yourself as a conformist. You will see here that we're going to talk about the extreme individualism that is associated with American life. Fighting the system is a natural American tendency. This list of traits comes from a famous American sociologist named Robin Williams. No, I'm not talking about the actor. Although he came up with this list over 50 years ago, I think most people agree that they're equally relevant today. Let's consider a few of them now. Individuality. Americans are extremely focused on their own rights and well-being. Most philosophers attribute this individualism to its history with England and lifestyle of early American families who often lived in the country with minimal oversight. Today, this trait can be seen in a number of personal blogs, in the number of tweets, and the ways that people try to stand out from other people. Another common trait associated with American culture is achievement and success. Americans focus on financial independence in their lives, separate from their parents and their families when they become adults, and success in life is based on how financially independent a person can be. Another common set of traits are democracy and freedom. While Americans seek individual autonomy, decisions that impact the group must be based on democratic principles. It should not be dictated by somebody else. Finally, I'll point out activity and work. Americans are famous for their work ethic. They do produce quite a bit for their income, but they are always busy and appear to be busy even when they're not working. There are many other examples that Robin Williams uses, but we could do a whole lecture just on this whole set of traits. I find, again, that a lot of students try to separate themselves from the culture they grew up in. This is part of the U.S. culture, but also keep in mind that elements of it may exist within you without you even knowing it. If you've traveled to another country, you will know that people from other countries can pick Americans out pretty quickly, even those who try to look local. While we share similar racial characteristics as many European countries, our mannerisms and our clothing give us away very quickly, no matter who you are. The Four Americans. Max Weber introduced the idea of ideal types as a way to help us understand examples of something in society. In this case, we will look at Robert Bella's 4 ideal type Americans. They are not role models, but simply reflect different types of Americans. Bella found these types by reviewing surveys of thousands of Americans combined with in-depth interviews of many of them. After reviewing these data, he came up with these 4. Let's start with Brian Palmer. Brian Palmer is the quintessential American. He worked very hard when he left college, and it paid off. He received a decent salary and a nice house. And his career grew, and so did his salary. Unfortunately, it came with a cost. The extra hours at work meant less time at home. So much so, his wife asked for a divorce, saying that they had just grown apart. This left Brian to rethink his life. Family became his focus, and with remarriage, he swore that family would come first in his life. Now his life is going another direction. Although he can't quite articulate why one trajectory, work or family, should take priority over the other one. A second character is Joe Gorman. Joe, on the other hand, always prioritized community life above his own. With hours and hours of volunteering each week, he must admit that he is dismayed to see that he doesn't see more people giving back to the community. After all, what else is there? Young people seek fame and fortune and spend more time texting and searching the internet than spending time with each other. Despite changes in the world, he still believes that we should hold on to something bigger than ourselves, the community, and young people will eventually come to their senses. Until then, we must keep working hard and trying to convince others to do the same. A third character that Bella came up with after interviewing lots of people is Margaret Oldham. Margaret is very practical. In the end, it is about what makes us happy, she believes. If that means divorce, so be it. If it means community building, that's fine too. The important thing is that you do what makes you happy in this world. As a therapist, that is her goal with each patient, to see what makes them happy and help them to achieve those individual goals. Family and community comes second. Finally, Wayne Bauer shares many of the community emphasis that Joe Gorman does, but he doesn't believe society or community is good in and of itself. His goal is to change society, to make it better. This is almost always means protest and radical social change. And that is what he has dedicated his life to. That is his religion. As a result, he has a hard time fitting in with other groups other than other activists themselves. There may be more than 4 types, but I think there's something about each one of them that we can probably find within us. In most cases, you're more like one than the other, but again, you might have some element of each one in you as well. There's nothing wrong with being more like one or the other. They're just different types. Bella's ultimate critique of these 4 American character types, and hence American society, is that they are associated with action and change, either personal or community, but there's no coherent reason or set of goals for any of them. They're just sort of floating around in the air in American society, and we pick and choose those things that help us get through. But there's no common culture that connects all of them when making decisions. He asks, why are one set of goals any better than the other ones? Who gets to decide? Without answering these questions, American culture is left without any strong commitment or purpose. Astral America. Jean Baudrillard is another analyst of American culture. He critiqued America as being a people without a culture, much like Bella. Like Bella, he questioned whether America had a soul. Maybe France has a bad culture, he would say, but at least it has a culture. The vast emptiness of America comes from its extreme individualism, according to Baudrillard. Joe Gorman is a fantasy, believing that he can restore community in America. And community activists like Wayne Bauer have no clear vision about what his culture should look like. Americans are left to seek out whatever they can stumble on to make them happy in their lifetimes, reflecting the sentiments of Brian Palmer and Margaret Oldham. Baudrillard goes on to examine the extremes of American society, its great saintliness and sinfulness. He juxtaposes Las Vegas, Nevada, or Sin City, to Salt Lake City, representing the Mormon Church and its strict code of moral conduct. America is a walking contradiction, he would say. The result is a herd of individuals with highly incoherent framework from which to judge themselves or other people. It wants Puritan and sinner all in one. These are rather harsh words, but to be quite frank, it reflects a lot of critique of American culture today. Are they true? I'm sure you can see that elements of what they say are true. Do you have to buy into all of them? Probably not. What can you learn, if anything, from these kind of critiques? Consumerism. Consumerism was not part of Robin Williams' analysis of American culture, but almost everyone agrees that it is here. While consumerism is almost always associated with material culture, can you be a consumer of other aspects of culture? Consider the role of news, sports, or other activities. The key to all of this is having the money and wealth to consume elements of culture of any kind. It is also about having the extra to hoard things like blogs, binge-watching television, other such things. This is another trait that is often associated with modern American culture. Conclusions. Why study American culture? If you are an American, studying American culture will help you know yourself better. Like anything that tells you about yourself, such as a personality test, it can help you understand why you make the choices that you make. It is easy to be critical of the world, even your own society, but you should always keep in mind that the subtle ways that you participate in the social construction of your own culture and the ways that you're passing it on to future generations. Without knowing what you're doing, you can't make informed decisions.